everyone, we are group number 27 and we chose the Three Gorges Dam in China for our topic. First, I'm going to introduce myself and my team members. I am Ji Young and I'm going to talk about the Three Gorges Dams, brief information, Michael on the problems during construction, Yu on the benefits and purpose, John and Tianbao on its impacts, and Limuel on the ethics and conclusion. The Three Gorges Dam is a hydroelectric gravity dam on a river called Yangtze River in China. On the specifics, it's located in a town called Sandoping in Yiling district in the province called Hubei. This dam is 2.3 kilometers long with a maximum height of 185 meters. The power plant was completed in 2012 and the dam has been the largest power station in the world. In 2018, the dam generated 101.6 trillion watt-hour. It has the total capacity of 385 tons of water. And Michael will keep talking about the problems during the construction.
Alright, so these are some of the construction obstacles that were faced on the construction of the Three Gorges Dam. First is the cost of the project. It was initially estimated that the Three Gorges Dam would cost around $8.35 billion. However, when the project was completed, the total price of the dam tripled, costing around $24 billion. During the initial feasibility studies conducted in the 1950s, these are the key problems that were pointed out. First is dealing with the relocation of around 1.4 million people. Some critics actually put the numbers at around 1.9 million that will be affected in the construction. Consideration of other possible solutions was also considered. Building smaller, less problematic dams, which will produce the same amount of electricity, were proposed, rather than building this one massive structure. Water pollution was also a key problem for this project. Concerns were brought up that the reservoir might get polluted by human and industrial activities present upstream of the dam. Engineers also feared that due to the large water that will be impounded within the reservoir, more frequent earthquakes and landslides might occur due to the total weight of the water and the structure. These are some of the reasons why the construction of the Three Gorges Dam only started in early 1990s, delaying the project by almost 40 years. With the dam fully functional in 2012, the problems that were brought up during the feasibility study came to reality. Poor quality of the water upstream was noticed. Algae has been covering up the reservoir, while the garbage and carpets of algae can be seen along the riverbanks. Landslides also happened more frequent after the construction of the dam, increasing the occurrence by 70%. Such landslides caused another 100,000 people to be evacuated from their houses.
The purpose of the dam is to provide power generation, flood control, navigation, and drought resistance, which brings benefits to the society. The main function of the dam is to generate hydroelectricity. As the world's largest capacity power station, it has 32 main generators and 2 plant power generators, which provides a total capacity of 22,500 million watts. Both direct and alternating current lines are used to transmit electricity to East, Central, and South China, and that covers 8 provinces and 2 municipalities. The power plant was fully operated in 2012 and produced 98.1 trillion watt-hour, which accounts for 40% of China's total hydro generation. Currently, about 100 trillion watt-hour is generated each year. From this graph, it is found that the electricity production in China mainly relies on fossil fuels, and it contributes to the severe air pollution. With the implementation of the power station, it is expected to produce 10% of total China's power, which greatly reduces the coal consumption as well as the greenhouse gas emissions. The dam was also designed for flood control. Flooding used to be a major problem for the seasonal Yangtze River, and in order to protect the large cities along downstream of the river, such as Wuhan, Nanjing, and Shanghai, flood control function has been taken into consideration. It has a flood storage capacity of 22 billion cubic meters, and it's able to prevent once every 100 years flood. Cruise ships navigation is another purpose of the dam. With the installation of ship lock and ship lift, the ships can travel much more safely. Since the reservoir extends to Chongqing, it improves 660 kilometers of waterway and largely enable 10,000 tons fleets to navigate all the way from Chongqing to Shanghai, which was almost impossible before. Also, the annual one-way navigation capacity increased to 50 million tons. As the ship and the fleet size are increased, the transportation cost can be reduced. The last one is drought resistance. It was not intended to have when the dam was designed. However, due to the water storage and the drought in the middle and lower reaches of Yangtze River, the government decided to let the dam to fight against the drought. In the dry season, the water in the reservoir will be discharged to ensure the water level in the downstream and supply water for irrigation, industrial production, and drinking at the meantime.
The Three Gorges Dam affected the farmers and the people living along the surrounding area of the reservoir. Approximately 1.2 million people had to be relocated so that the construction of the project can begin. They had to demolish their own houses so that when the river rises by 50 meters, the big ships using the river would not have navigation problems. Then, more than 100 people must be moved over the next few years of construction. There were also some cases of corruption in relocation. Since the Three Gorges Dam project was such a large-scale venture, it is easier for funds to be embezzled. Most of the people did not get a proper compensation for their land. Also, the number of people being relocated were underestimated. Therefore, equal funds may not exist. A case study found that some of the migrants were forced into jobs that they did not want or does not have the skills for. And also, mainly due to depression, most of the migrants had a sudden decline on their subjective health. Since the upstream side of the dam needed to rise by 50 meters, several cultural sites along the Yangtze were submerged. Some of these sites hold religious and cultural significance, as well as location of worship for some locals. The Chinese government set aside funds to protect the sites and artifacts that could be saved. However, since there were time constraints and shortage of personnel, some of these artifacts could not be saved or preserved properly. So far, around 1,300 archaeological sites have been submerged, including that of the believed Bas civilization in the Three Gorges Mountains 4,000 years ago. Also, the dam submerged 13 cities, 140 towns, and 1,350 villages, as well as extremely fertile farmlands in the surrounding area. The farmland lost had been accounted for 40% of China's grain production and 70% of the country's rice crops. Throughout the project, international help was allowed for inspection and engineering of the dam, but the inspection of the relocation was forbidden.
A major environmental issue is that the construction of the dam is affecting the biodiversity in the area. A huge number of plants on both sides of the river were removed, so that the habitat of wildlife within the construction area was destructed. In addition, fragmentation of habitat also led to losses of diversity. A representative species was Chinese river dolphin. The constructed reservoir covers the dolphin's habitat, so the reproduction pattern of the dolphin was seriously disturbed. In December 12, 2006, the biologist declared that the Chinese river dolphin functionally extinct. Some studies claimed that the Three Gorges Dam directly caused the extinction of the Chinese river dolphin.
Another environmental issue is that the Three Gorges Dam project induced seismic activity. You can see the comparison of two figures A and B on the left-hand side, where figure A represents the distribution of epicenters 13 years before impounding, and figure B shows the distribution of epicenters 13 years after impounding. Each red dot in the figure represents one epicenter, and the larger the red dots, the higher the magnitude of the earthquake. It is clearly shown that there are a lot more observed epicenters near the Yangtze River after the construction of the reservoir. Therefore, the earthquake issue must be considered in this case.
Okay, for the ethical portion of this project, in building this dam, 1.4 million people were forced to relocate and caused them to lose their houses as well as their livelihoods. These people lived their whole lives in the area and are forced to demolish in order for the project to proceed. According to John Locke's rights ethics, humans have the right to life, liberty, and property, and others have the duty to respect these fundamental rights. Also, about 1,300 historical and cultural sites were submerged in the process. These changes in lifestyle will definitely change the customs of the future generation. In addition to that, animals were forced to be moved from their natural habitat because of the interference that happened. According to the concept of utilitarianism, the decision that maximizes the benefits will outweigh the consequences. And for the project, after its construction, quality of water upstream was impacted negatively, where infestation of algae in the reservoir became a problem. Also, landslide along the riverbank and settlement occurrence were greatly increased, which forced to relocate about 100,000 more people. On the other hand, the main purpose of the dam is for generating massive amount of power while reducing coal power plants that eventually reduces the greenhouse emissions. Also, the dam will be used for mitigating floods and will allow naval navigation as well as drought control measures. So, to summarize, the Three Gorges Dam is a hydroelectric dam built in China that cost $24 billion to build, and the functions are to generate power, mitigate floods, navigation purposes, and drought control. Thank you all for listening, and if you are interested to know more about the Three Gorges Dam, you can follow these references.